Hello there, Philosophy 353 Theory of Knowledge students. This video is a part one of a two-part series on modest foundationalism. I'm going to talk about the theory, in this video and some objections to it in the next one. Modest foundationalism, like the other two views that we've thought about in this chapter, Cartesian foundationalism and Coherentism, is a so-called evidentialist theory of justification, of justified belief, what it is to hold a reasonable or rational belief. And the idea is that whether or not you're justified in holding a belief is a matter of your total evidence. And these kinds of theories are sometimes called internalist theories. And again, the idea there being quite similar, that whether or not you're justified in holding a given belief is completely determined by your internal mental states, whether it's other beliefs or sense experiences or things of that nature. A couple of sessions ago, we were looking at this version of foundationalism inspired by René Descartes, Cartesian foundationalism. And according to this theory, the conjunction of these three claims, justified belief has a certain foundational structure. We have, according to CF1, we have basic beliefs, which are appearance beliefs, beliefs about your inner states of mind, that beliefs that you're having certain ideas or that things visually seem to you to be certain ways, and so on. And modest foundationalists are going to reject this. Okay, they're going to reject the idea that beliefs about one's own inner states of mind and beliefs about elementary truths of logic are justified basic beliefs. Let me clarify that in just a moment. But the reason modest foundationalists are going to reject this is that they typically hold that basic beliefs are just ordinary perceptual beliefs, like that's a table, that's a tree, things like this, about the external world. That being said, modest foundationalists can admit that beliefs about your inner states of mind can be basic beliefs, justified basic beliefs, but the main idea is that ordinary perceptual beliefs, there's a tree, that person's talking, are going to be basic as well. Modest foundationalists are also going to reject this claim, the claim that justified basic beliefs are justified because we can't be mistaken about them. On the contrary, modest foundationalists hold that basic beliefs can be justified even if they're not immune from error. The idea is you could fully hold, you could be quite justified in holding a basic belief, even if that belief is false, even if you are mistaken. Cartesian Foundationalism 3, version 3, says the rest of our beliefs, our inferential beliefs, our non-basic beliefs, are justified when they can be deduced from our basic beliefs, and modest foundationalists claim that deduction is too restrictive, and the idea is going to be that non-basic beliefs are justified if they're well supported, inductively well supported by basic beliefs, even if they're not deducible from them. It's not that beliefs that can be deduced are not justified, it's the idea that other beliefs can be justified as well. Okay. Nevertheless, modest foundationalism is a version of foundationalism, and as such is going to share certain basic claims with the Cartesian version. Number one, that there are justified basic beliefs. I will often call these JBBs. And number two, that the other justified beliefs are justified in virtue of their relations or their connections to the basic ones. So the idea is that there is a foundational structure. There are justified basic beliefs, beliefs that are justified but not on the basis of other beliefs. These are the foundation for all other justified beliefs, which are justified in virtue of their connections, their relations to the basic ones. But the modest view is just going to have different claims about which beliefs are basic and how non-basic beliefs are justified. In fact, how the basic beliefs are justified as well. Okay, so I kind of talked through this already, but unlike Cartesian foundationalists, modest foundationalists are going to hold that ordinary perceptual beliefs about the external world you're looking at a table, like your belief that there's a table there, can be justified basic beliefs, and that justified basic beliefs need not be infallible or need not be immune from doubt. So in other words, we can have justified but false basic beliefs. And with respect to inferential or non-basic beliefs, these can be justified even if they can't be deduced from basic ones. Remember, deduction is a very strong notion. It's the idea of the argument from basic ones to non-basic ones being deductively valid. If the basic ones are true, the non-basic ones must be true as well. I'm using MF here to be modest foundationalism. So according to modest foundationalism, as long as basic ones give strong support for non-basic ones, it doesn't have to be conclusive, deductively valid support, then the non-basic ones can be justified. Okay, modest foundationalism is going to be the conjunction of three claims, and if you remember, the three claims are going to be sort of answers to the three questions that any foundationalist framework is going to have to give. Number one is, which beliefs are basic? Number two is, how are these beliefs justified? And number three is, how are other beliefs justified? So modest foundationalism is going to be the combination of three doctrines, three claims. And in order to, so we're going to call them MF1, MF2, and MF3, modest foundationalism 1, 2, 3. To understand the first claim, let's talk about the notion of a spontaneously formed belief. It might sound fancy, but it's quite simple. It's a belief that's not inferred from or formed on the basis of other beliefs. So if you have a spontaneously formed belief, the explanation of why you believe it makes no reference to other beliefs that you hold. Okay, it might make reference to certain sense experiences that you're having or something like that, what you're seeing or what you're hearing, but it doesn't make reference to other beliefs that you hold. You don't infer it from other beliefs. And modest foundationalists are going to endorse this claim, that basic beliefs are spontaneously formed beliefs. It doesn't say much, but that's the idea. Typically, moreover, beliefs about the external world, including beliefs about the kinds of objects experienced, or their sensory qualities, are justified and basic. Basic beliefs about mental states can also be justified and basic. So the idea here is we're not always focusing on how things seem to us or the ideas that we're having. But if we are, if we're really thinking about the fact that there seems to be a truck coming at me, then that belief could also be basic as well and justified. So, beliefs about the kinds of objects experienced are things like, that's a table, that's a tree, that's a penny or a quarter. Sensory qualities are the attributes of things such as their colors. That's a yellow line. That's round, that's silver. Okay, beliefs about things, shapes, sizes, colors, and so on. So these are typically basic beliefs according to modest foundationalists. By the way, this is a very widely held view about epistemic justification. Reading between the lines, it seems to me that our author seems to be going for this view. Not that you have to agree with him. And by the way, we're going to do a bare bones version of this view, and a lot of interesting work, I think, could be done in filling it out and responding to objections and so forth. Okay, I hope the main idea is clear here as far as it goes. So, if you're looking at a table and you believe that's a table, this could very well be a basic belief. It's a spontaneously. It's not like you're arriving at that belief from some other belief that you already have. It's a spontaneously formed belief. Why would such a belief be justified? That's the next question. So when is a BB, when is a basic belief a JBB? When is it a justified basic belief? Is every spontaneously formed belief justified? Well, that doesn't seem right. It seems like sometimes a person could form a belief not on the basis of other beliefs, but it's not justified. So is it justified simply because it's spontaneously formed? Because it's not formed on the basis of other beliefs? That doesn't seem right. There's an example in the reading. By the way, these slides I'll make available to you. And there's a handout on this with the highlights, the main points. If that ever helps you, it's handout 13 for our class this spring. There's an example sort of that begins on the bottom of page 71, I think. 73. Where you're kind of hoping, you have a friend, and you're hoping that she's going to stop by your house to visit before social distancing. And you kind of hear a car engine stop, yeah. You hear a car nearby. And you suddenly believe that your friend has arrived, okay? And it's a spontaneously formed belief. Maybe you hear it on the basis of your perception of the car engine, but you don't form it on the basis of other beliefs. But you really have no good reason to think that your friend is going to stop by. So it doesn't seem to be justified. Even if you have no evidence against it here, it doesn't seem like a spontaneously formed belief is justified, even if you have no evidence against it. So the idea is going to be something like this. I'm going to have us look at MF2 in a moment. If you're looking at this table, and you're just like a normal person, I'm not adding in all these details. If you believe that's a table, the belief in green, that seems to be like a proper response to what you're experiencing, right? You're looking at a table, you have this image of a table in your mind. It seems like it's a proper response to believe that that's a table. But if by some weird quirk you also believe that that's a 12-year-old table, that belief might also be a spontaneously formed belief, but that doesn't seem to be a proper response to what you're experiencing. All you're experiencing is your visual image, right, of the table. So the idea behind Modest Foundationalism is going to be that a spontaneously formed belief is justified when it's a proper response to what you're experiencing or what's appearing to you. And the idea is I put the belief that that's a table in green because intuitively that's a proper response to what you're experiencing here. But the weird belief that, that table is 12 years old is not, even if it's a response to your experience or your appearance, it's not a proper one. Okay, so the second claim is, how are these basic beliefs justified? It's an answer to that question, and we're going to call our claim here MF2B because in the reading Feldman talks about various like MF2A. He's moving towards the most plausible thing that foundationalists can say about this. So here's the idea. A spontaneously formed belief is justified if and only if it's a proper response to experiences or appearances, and it's not defeated by other evidence that the believer has. Okay, experiences are sense experiences, and I'm putting appearances in here, I don't know, just to kind of give another intuitive feel for the view. Experiences could be kind of like your visual experiences, your smell, olfactory experiences, or touch, tactile experiences. As long as you're properly responding to those in your thoughts, in your beliefs, according to this, you're justified. Unless you have other evidence that supports the idea that your belief is false. And I'm going to say more about this other clause here in a couple of moments. But again, the idea would be that if you see a table, you have an experience, right? A visual experience of a table. And believing that that's a table would be a proper response. Believing that it's 12 years old or 22 years old would not. So your belief that it's a table would be justified, but your belief that it's a 12-year-old table would not be justified. Do you remember coherentism, our other evidentialist theory of justification, coherentism? Well, coherentism had trouble with the so-called isolation objection and our isolation argument, with Magic Feldman, with the jogger in the rain, and Lefty in the psychology experiment. If you remember all that, I hope you do. Um, According to coherentism, a belief is justified if it kind of raises or increases the coherence value of your system of beliefs. So really what all that matters is your system of beliefs, the other beliefs that you have. And if you remember the weird example about Magic Feldman, according to coherentism, his belief that he was playing basketball was justified because that increased the coherence value of his system of beliefs. All the other beliefs in his system were beliefs that entailed that he was playing basketball on that situation. But his belief system wasn't kind of sensitive to the data of experience. So according to Modest Foundationalism, Professor Feldman, Magic Feldman, was not justified in believing that he was playing basketball, assuming that this is a spontaneously formed belief, because it wasn't a proper response to his experiences. If you remember that example, he was teaching a philosophy class, right? So he should have believed that he was teaching a philosophy class. Or the jogger going out in the rain, his system of beliefs involved only a 40% chance of rain and partly sunny, partly cloudy skies. So the belief that it's raining didn't increase the coherence value of the system. On the other hand, the belief that it was raining is a proper response to experience because the raindrop hit him in the head. Remember that? Okay, so the idea here is we have kind of an important response or way to avoid a pretty serious objection to coherentism. That being said, the rest of the theory is quite similar to coherentism. The relationship between basic beliefs and non-basic beliefs. Coherentists and foundationalists share a whole lot of perspective on that. The idea is that a kind of coherence between your basic beliefs and your non-basic beliefs, inductive connections, explanatory connections, deductive connections. These folks share a whole lot of theory in common, even though there is this quite important difference on sensitivity to the data of experience. Okay. This is something that I'll talk about more in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Modest foundationalists want to say that beliefs whose content is closer to the content of experience are more apt to be proper responses to your experiences, and that training and sort of experience in the sense of learning can affect what's a proper response. Okay, so here the belief that that's brown, right? That would be a really proper response. That's more apt to be a justified, spontaneously formed belief, even more so than the belief that that's a table. The belief that that's a table is pretty close to the content of the experience itself, but the belief that that's brown is even closer. But the belief that that's a 12-year-old table is much further removed than what experience provides. So that's less likely to be a justified basic belief. And obviously here, there's a lot of room for philosophical research and work on this issue. And I'm kind of hoping that a few of you will take this on as your second essay assignment. Okay, so let me preface this next. What is the purpose of this condition here that a spontaneously formed belief is justified only if it's not defeated by other evidence that you have? Okay, that's what I'd like to talk about for a couple of minutes. White things or yellow things are going to appear red if they are under a red lamp or a red light. Okay, so this was the best picture I could find on the internet. But there's like a relatively white hand under white light on the left, and that same hand under red light on the left. And if you imagine, you could try this with like a lemon. It's kind of cool if you have a red light. If you're looking at a white thing, forget about the hand, or even a yellow thing, like a lemon, under red light. Or like a ball. You don't even know what if it's a fruit or it's just a ball. You're looking at a ball, it looks red. The idea here is if you believe that it's red, that's going to be a proper response to your experience. Okay? But if you happen to know that it's a red light, it's a red lamp, then your belief is defeated by other evidence that you have. So the idea is, according to this view, and tell me if you disagree in a discussion forum or chat. This seems reasonable to me. If you're looking at a ball and it looks red, you're justified in believing that it's red. But, if you also believe that there's a red light shining on it, then you're no longer justified in believing that it's red. You should really sort of withhold judgment, suspend judgment. Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay, here's another example, similar point. Which line seems longer? Well, the bottom one, right? Someone who's looking at these lines, according to Modest Foundationalism, might very well be justified in believing that the bottom line is longer than the top one, and that seems to be a proper response to experience. However, we know that it's an illusion. We know. Some viewers, some other people might not know. If you know that this is an illusion, or if you believe that this is if you have evidence that this is an optical illusion, and this has the Muller-Lyer or Muller-Lyer illusion, then your belief that this is an illusion defeats your justification. Your evidence that this is an illusion defeats your justification for believing that the bottom line is longer. So if you know or if you believe that this is an optical illusion, then you're not justified in believing that the bottom line is longer, even if that might be a proper response to your experience. That's the force of that second part of MF2B. Okay. There's an interesting and controversial issue here. Okay. And I'm gonna read an example from the top of page 75 in our textbook. Compare a novice bird watcher, someone just starting, and an expert walking together in the woods, seeking out the rare pink-spotted flycatcher. I guess that's a kind of bird. A bird flies by, and each person spontaneously forms the belief that there's a pink-spotted flycatcher there. The expert knows this to be true, but the novice is jumping to a conclusion out of excitement. The expert has a well-founded belief, justified belief, but the novice does not. In the same situation, both the novice and the expert may have well-founded beliefs about the color, shape, and size of the bird they see. This suggests there's some relevant difference between properties such as being gray and white, being gray with pink spots, and about 4 inches long, on the one hand, versus properties such as being a pink-spotted flycatcher on the other. One might say that the former properties are closer to experience than the latter. Anyone with proper vision can discern the former properties in experience, the color properties and the length, the 4 inches long properties. This is not true of the latter. This suggests two factors about when beliefs are properly based on experience. First, when the contents of the belief are closer to the direct contents of experience, they are more apt to be properly based on experience. Second, this is kind of important for our purposes here, modest foundationalists can say that training and experience can affect what counts as a proper response to experience. So, the idea here is both the expert and the novice bird watcher have the same kind of raw visual experience. Both of them might believe that that's a bird that's pink and gray and 4 inches long. And they might both justifiably believe that, because that would be a proper response to what they're experiencing. But at the bottom here, both of them in fact believe that there's a pink-spotted flycatcher. For the expert, the idea here is that's a proper response to what the expert is experiencing because of the expert's training and experience in birdwatching. But the novice's belief on the right that there's a pink-spotted flycatcher is not a proper response to the novice's visual experience because of the novice's lack of training and experience. I'm going to come back to this in the second video. There's a lot of controversial, challenging, to me, interesting issues here, but that's kind of the idea. This sort of thing is open to the modest foundationalist to say. We could say that the expert, both of the bottom beliefs, by the way, for the purposes of this example, are supposed to be spontaneously formed, and the idea is that the experts, according to MF2, is justified because it's a proper response in virtue of the expert's training, but the novice's belief is not justified and hence not a proper response and hence not justified. Okay, just a few more minutes. Let's talk about non-basic beliefs. So, what about the rest of our beliefs? According to Modest Foundationalism, Cartesian foundationalism and its stress on only deductive connections, that's too restrictive. So this is actually fairly simple and straightforward. We don't have to make too big a deal of it. According to this theory, non-basic beliefs are justified if and only if or when they are supported either by deductive or strong inductive inferences, including enumerative induction. Do you remember we talked about David Hume? He was skeptical about this, but modest foundationalists say we shouldn't be. Your belief that the sun will rise tomorrow is, according to modest foundationalism, quite well justified, because even if it's not deductively supported by other things that you believe, it's strongly inductively supported. An inference to the best explanation. Remember we talked about that a little bit with respect to skepticism? The idea is that, this is just one example. The idea is that there's an external world out there with desks and chairs, and if we ever come back to Dodds 102 again for class next year, or hey, some of you guys, you're graduating maybe for homecoming one year, go back to your old theory of knowledge stomping grounds. The best explanation of why you seem to see a classroom there is that there's actually an external world, Dodds Hall there, right? So the idea is that we don't have to deduce in this very restrictive, deductively valid sense our non-basic beliefs from our basic ones to be justified. It could be inductive, non-deductive, and not to worry about. But they're not defeated by other evidence. So, according to this, just because some of your evidence might support a non-basic belief, if some other of your evidence doesn't, then overall you're not justified because you have evidence that defeats that. So, for example, I think I'm going to end here actually. Yep. Remember this example, Officer Careful. Officer Careful sort of starts out believing, I see a painting. That might very well be a basic belief on modest foundationalism. I see a painting. The painting I see belongs to art. That might not be a basic belief, but that might be supported by basic beliefs. I'm in Filcher's house. Maybe or maybe not that's a basic belief. But in any case, I'm going to do that again. These three sort of beliefs support that bottom one, that Filcher stole the painting. Right? I'm in Filcher's house, but this painting belongs to art. So Filcher stole the painting. That's not, again, a deductively valid inference, but it does seem like an inference to the best explanation, right? The best explanation of why Officer Careful sees a painting which belongs to art and he's in Filcher's house. The best explanation of those facts is that Filcher is the thief. Filcher stole the painting. So this is not deductive. It's not airtight, 100% conclusive, but it seems inductively kind of strong. So modest foundationalism allows beliefs of the red sort to be quite well justified, well founded. Okay, so in the next video we're going to pick up at this point. Modest foundationalism is the conjunction of three claims, MF1, MF2B, and MF3A. Don't worry about the labels. What's more important is the content of what these claims say. Next time we're going to talk about sort of a coherentist objection to this view that nothing can be basic, and as kind of a challenge to this view, which I find very interesting, about the relationship between sense experience or the way things seem and the justification of your beliefs.